U wara dik id-diskursata verament interessanti dwar Requiem for a Dream li ħassir ġewwa Teatru Manuel fl-aħħar ta' Mejju, Requiem, skużawni, for a Dream minn Sfin Malta, issa wasal il-ħin li nitkellmu dwar id-dislessija u dwar il-proġett li jismu NoticeAbility li il-Malta Dyslexia Association qiegħda torganizza u fil-fatt hawnhekk ukoll ħanerġa' naqleb l-Ingliż imma tinkwetawx ħankun qed nittraduċi wkoll bil-Malti għax miegħi għandi żewġ mistiedna li bħalissa qegħdin Malta biex appuntu jagħmlu xogħol dwar id-dislessija għaw Malta u fil-fatt miegħi għandi l-missier u t-tifel tiegħu Dean Bragonier and Bodhi Bragonier u fisimkom ħanilqahom fuq KikkraTe. Welcome to KikkraTe. How are you? Such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
And to welcome you on the island as well.
We've only been here for about 48 hours, but I can say this is one of the most amazing looking places I've ever seen.
Thank you.
It's extraordinary.
Thank you. Is it your first time in Malta?
It is. I hope it's not the last.
Fantastic. And we hope to have you again and again and again.
Oh, thank you.
You're doing some very valuable work.
Thank you.
All related to dyslexia. So when I say dyslexia, that's very similar to Italian, that's the Maltese word.
Yeah.
Can we start by defining dyslexia for those people out there who might need?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the most simplistic way to explain dyslexia is a fundamental challenge in learning how to read and how to write in terms of spelling and grammar. But a more sort of neurological explanation is the fact that the visual part of the brain and the word processing part of the brain, for neurotypical people, it's a very quick and efficient pathway. For the dyslexic person, it is a circuitous brain. The pathway takes more effort and a longer journey, which makes the process of learning how to read and spell infinitely more challenging,
isn't it? In fact, I'm going to translate this
please, thank you.
for our Maltese viewers. Bażikament li għalinna din hija li id-dyslessija għal min forsi għandu bżonn jiftakar ftit, hija bażikament kundizzjoni fejn aħna soltu meta biex naqraw u nikdbu, aħna għandna bżonn inħarsu b'mod viżwali, ovvjament inti għandek il-nervituri fil-moħħ li dak li qed tara il-moħħ jipproċessaħ biex inti taqraħ, ġifier minn lajn imur għall-moħħ, il-moħħ imur għall-ħalq biex titkellmu fil-każ tal-qari jew inkella għal-idejn biex tikdbu. F'każ ta' persuni bid-dyslessija, dan u aktar ta' sfida biex din il-konnezzjoni issir, għalhekk ovvjament hemm bżonn iktar ta' focus sewa biex dak li jkun jista' jagħmel dan b'mod aħjar. U hemmhekk fejn nidħlu aħna l-għalliema, fejn jidħlu il-learning support educators biex dan il-proċess jiffaċilitawh. Dean, Bodhi.
That was so well said.
Did you understand me?
Not at all, but it sounded much prettier than the way I said it. Thank you.
Pleasure. In fact, I'm going to ask you, how did your work on dyslexia start? Bodhi, Dean.
Well, I'm going to take full credit for it right off the bat. He's dyslexic, my mother's dyslexic, so we like to joke that I'm a bit of a purebred dyslexic. And they knew that from the get-go. And around 6 or 7, I started coming up with these different business plans and different business ideas, which my dad observed, and he immediately related that to dyslexia, and eventually it developed into the curriculum that we use today. So I was a very successful guinea pig.
How old are you again?
I'm 14.
Wow, and you started having these ideas for businesses at age 7, you said?
6 or 7, yeah. And I was able to create successful business plans, although none of them are in function today. They're all still quality ideas, especially for a 6-year-old.
Wow, but the ideas were there. You were coming up with these ideas. And I've read also your biography that led you to research the idea that, the entrepreneurial skills in people with dyslexia.
There are many people that are familiar with dyslexia are mostly familiar with the challenges that I just described. The neuroscience that is emerging is revealing that the same brain construction that I described also carries with it significant benefits. And so these benefits, and I wish we had the time to go into it, we don't, but these benefits seem to present in certain professional paths where we are disproportionately successful. Now, if a child is in school and is getting the message that because they are challenged by reading and writing that they are somehow broken or stupid, it can lead to a very negative self-perception.
Yes.
And as you can see on the screen, it can also reveal very negative outcomes.
Yes.
However, if students are made aware of the strengths, and we can build those strengths within the student, the other side, the 40% of self-made millionaires or the 35% of entrepreneurs, reveals that dyslexia is not just a challenge, but can also be a benefit if it's accessed and approached properly.
And you can be successful. I mean, 40% of self-made billionaires, that's nearly half.
Yes.
So it's no joke.
It's a fascinating subject, partly because there is so much at stake for the individual, but there's also a lot at stake for society, because if we are not harnessing the power of the dyslexic, we're wasting an amazing opportunity.
Of course, a brilliant human resource. And I think a way for us to actually look at things differently.
Yes.
Because I think that's what sometimes we stick to one way of doing things or seeing things, not just with dyslexia, but with most things. And I think the opportunity that you're mentioning, you know, the ability to actually understand how you see things, sometimes it might actually be a better alternative. So
it's, you know, throughout history, some of the most influential change agents, as we would say in the US, people who have significantly impacted in a positive way the way our societies operate, have been people with dyslexia. And so I think we all deserve to listen to them and to support them as best we can.
Of course. Before we move on to NoticeAbility, which you're the founder of, and you're also the ambassador, the international ambassador for youth.
Yes.
We mentioned how we will start noticing certain traits, let's call them that. So basically, if someone might not be reading as much as the others or writing difficulties, what should parents out there look out for in order to avoid the negative conceptions and the negative messages before they actually happen?
Yes. May I handle this one?
By all means, I might add to it.
The initial warning sign is a child's difficulty with acquiring the skill of reading. Another is the sign of how they are challenged by the process of writing and spelling.
Okay.
But because people with dyslexia are by definition average or above average intelligence, we are very quick to figure out ways to remain invisible. We don't want to be seen for these deficiencies.
To mask it one way or another.
Exactly, because there's a lot of shame with not being able to do these things. Yes. And so we will often present in different ways. Some of us will become a class, we call it a class clown, the joker, right? Because that allows us to be seen in a different light than the struggle. Some of us will also manifest frustration. And so very often the student with dyslexia will be labeled as a behavioral issue, yes, not somebody with learning challenges. That's where it gets a little bit dangerous, because then we're addressing the wrong issue. We need to go back to the core issue, which is the dyslexia itself. Did you have something to add?
I don't have anything. I'll leave it there, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
However, I'm going to ask you, if there was something that you would have liked one of us adults, teacher, whatever, to do differently, is there anything you'd pinpoint, like, listen, I might have needed to be heard more, or given a different skill in a different way? Is there something you can pinpoint?
Well, for me, I've had the luckiest dyslexia experience. Two parents who know they're dyslexic, who tell me and teach me about dyslexia, along with going to a private school in America. I had every advantage in the book, and I still struggled with aspects of my dyslexia and difficult teachers, but I think the biggest thing for teachers to be looking out for is not what the student is doing badly, but how they can kind of help improve, and being open. That's the biggest thing. Yes. Teachers will shut down and just give you bad grades and leave you by the wayside. Whereas when a teacher can communicate and be like, hey, how can I help you, would some extra time on this test or a reading iPad or reading help be helpful. And being able to be in communication and talk, I think that would be the biggest thing.
In fact, Mana, I'm going to translate very quickly, so like that I can say, bażikament li qed ngħidu jgħalik, pereżempju għandek taħseb li għandek it-tifel jew it-tifel li għandha dislessija, l-ewwel ħaġa li għandek tara hija jekk hemmx pereżempju il-qari, jekk hux qed jaqbdu l-qari jew ankella l-kitba. Għalfejn, għax hekk ovvjament dawn ħajdumu ftit iktar hemm kapaċi, mhux qed ngħid li bil-fors għax it-tfal kollha jiżviluppaw b'mod differenti, ma kapaċi li jkun hemm id-dislessija, għalhekk huwa importanti li mhux nitfgħu iktar pressjoni fuq it-tfal imma nippruvaw nindunaw u nifhmu u nitkellmu ma' professjonisti biex naraw x'l-aħjar u kif nistgħu nagħmlu l-materjal iżjed aċċessibbli qabel ma dawn jibdew jieħdu l-idea li forsi huma mhumiex kapaċi għax mhuwiex il-każ kif qal din qabel għandna 40% tal-biljonarji li ħolqu lilhom infushom ġifieri waslu fejn waslu bis-saħħa tagħhom għandhom id-dislessija, ġifieri mhijiex ċajta, ġifieri hemm affarijiet vantaġġużi wkoll li ħafna drabi ma tkellmux fuqhom. In order to wrap up this conversation, because time flies over here, literally, your work with NoticeAbility and why are you here in Malta? What will be happening?
Well, Malta is very fortunate to have an extraordinary organization called the Malta Dyslexia Association. They are incredibly active, and that is something that a lot of countries don't have. So that's the great news. We were invited to participate and lend support by bringing our programs to Malta to share for free with schools that are interested in bringing this strength-based approach to their students with dyslexia. And so together with this collaboration, we hope to continue to push the importance of diagnosis and reading intervention, but on top of that, a focus on the social and emotional learning that can happen and benefit the student. We have a very exciting webinar planned for this Friday at 6 p.m. where we will have a lot of time to go into some of these details, but we do have to say with great admiration that Malta is really ahead of the curve when it comes to dyslexia. So thank you for having us. It's an honor to be here.
Such a pleasure, and thank you for being here to do this amazing work where we empower people, because I think sometimes, as you mentioned, that is what lacks. We focus on the negatives and we forget the positives. Two of them are in front of me. Your last message to our viewers, maybe who haven't diagnosed, they have a child who doesn't have dyslexia, there's no diagnosis of dyslexia yet, or they have dyslexic children, or slightly older children watching us. Your last message to them.
You got to take that.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope that you can join us for that webinar because we'll be able to we'll be able to go into much more detail. But I think the biggest thing is being prideful about yourself and not letting dyslexia be a disadvantage. Whereas if you can get through the school system and those things that you struggle with, you can go and you can really thrive when you find things that interest you. So again, thank you so much for listening to us speak, and we hope to see you on Friday.
You can see why he's the ambassador, huh? I think he's after my job, huh?
I don't want to add anything more because I want to leave everyone on that note. Dean, Bodhi, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for all the work.
Thank you.
Such a pleasure to share the space with you.
Thank you.
And looking forward all the best for Friday.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.
U fuq dik il-nota ħanalqu din ir-rokna tinsewx nhar il-ġimgħa ħajkun hemm webinar appuntu fuq id-dislessija flimkien ma' din kif ukoll ma' Bodhi jekk intom interessati tistgħu tingħaqdu biex bekk ikolkom iktar tarif. Waqfa qasira u mbagħad wara Roberta Farrugia. Ibqgħu hemm.